Okay. Hello, world. Hello, beautiful people. It is me. I am with you. Uh, so, today, our topic is getting your head out of the sand with money. Okay. Let me say a little bit on this because I've had a lot of experience with it. Um, I was recently on a trip in Australia. I hadn't been back there for many years, and I was having all of this stuff come up financially, and I was like, okay, I don't really have much clarity with what's actually going on here. So I was like, okay, first things first, I'm going to get clarity with this because one of the things I'd learned throughout my life, one of the things that had become part of the way that I handled certain things, money being one of them, was whenever anything would come up that I couldn't control or couldn't understand or couldn't make sense of, I would just avoid it. I would just stick my head in the sand and hope that it would go away. This became very obvious. I think it was about 13 years ago. I was in a relationship and we were buying a house together. Once we had bought the house, I went, oh, I'm also $220,000 in debt with the Australian Taxation Office. The person, wonderful person, said to me, do you think that's something that you might tell somebody before you buy a house with them? But here's the deal. It wasn't even on my radar. For me, I was that good at sticking my head in the sand financially that it was just like, oh, this is something that you would talk about, but basically the way that I created that debt was I just ignored it. I thought if I stuck my head in the sand long enough and ignored it long enough, eventually it would go away. So that was basically the energetics of what I grew up with financially. I bring that up because how much of what you have going on financially right now, or the points of view that you have about money, the debt that you create, the seeming as if things don't change the way that you should be available and possible to change for you, how much is that part of these energetic structures that you have created as reality to deal with this topic? So I got some tools for you. Just if you're like, yeah, that sounds exactly like me, let's get some change in that, because here's one of the things that you want to have as an awareness. You cannot change anything that you're avoiding or keeping hidden from you. So it's in the unhiding that allows you to begin to start changing different things. But how much have you kept it hidden, but also kept avoiding having total clarity financially, total clarity with your money flows and with money, that have kept you from changing it? So I was looking at all of this a couple of months ago, and I was like, okay, right, I am getting clarity with this. And I sat down and I went through everything. Basically, how much money am I bringing in? How much do you just kind of want to glaze over when I'm talking about this? Even the idea of getting clarity and having the awareness of what it would take to change something, how much do you kind of just glaze over and you just like, well, can't it just change? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So also everywhere that has also become part of your energetic structure with the way that you handle things. What if there was a different possibility with that? So let's see what we get into here. But so I got this clarity financially, and I was like, holy shit. I didn't realize that I was actually putting myself again in that same position of, just not having any ability to change it. So what I did was I was like, okay, I have the tools. I'm going to get to work. I'm going to start actually working at this and changing it. And what I did over the next 8 days was I filmed videos of myself doing all of this. We have created this as a video course that is my gift to the world. So if you're on here listening to this and you would like some contribution with this topic, how does it get any better than that? I mean, you just got yourself a whole gift of videos. That's like, but here's the deal is now, would you be willing to actually make the choices and do the work to change it? I know, right? Doesn't it suck when you're just like, can't you just change it for me? Can't you just do it for me? Can't you just make it so all this just goes away and everything's better and everything's magical? Yeah, but here's the thing, because I've done that a lot throughout my life as well, is when change shows up like that, when it shows up from this place of you not actually having the awareness to create the change, how often do you not receive it? How often do you not actually acknowledge it and therefore not allow it in to become part of the way that you actually begin to create your life from that point forward? What if everything that you've chosen up until this point with regards to money could now be different? I know, right? Just weird. So, so many things with this topic of money. So there are many different tools that I talk about in this video series that may be very helpful. So many of the tools that I use, but also this live kind of came at perfect timing as well, because I had this stress out in the last few days financially that has given me a lot of awareness. One of the things that I see that I had been choosing, but also in a lot of the people that I talk to, had been using money as if it's some sort of security. Well, if I have money, then I have security. But one of the things I realized, I was dealing with this banking institute, and they basically just went, okay, we don't like the way you're doing things. Without me going into that, don't worry, I wasn't doing anything bad. But it was the way that it all showed up, and they basically just froze my accounts, and I had to make a lot of changes quickly. And I was like, oh, wow. The stress that I was using to avoid handling it was what was actually creating more of what wasn't working. As soon as I got to the point where I went, okay, so what if I just trusted me in this? How many of you have been stressed out with this topic of money lately? How much have you been using the stress to pull in more stress, to pull in more of what's not working, rather than look at, okay, what if you could trust you, knowing that if you were to start creating money, creating money and creating your financial reality from a space that was actually true for you, how would you create it? And this is where I see for a lot of us kind of just go blank. You know, like when I started looking at that many years ago, I was like, again, can someone tell me how to deal with this thing? Because one of the judgments that I had of myself, but also had projected at me my whole life, was I was never going to be any good with money. So how many projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections have you had put on you with regards to this topic? How many of you are told that you're never going to be more than what people could expect of you, or you were never going to have ease with money? You were never going to have more money than your family had. You were never going to be able to, create beyond what other people saw you could create yourself as, all of that different stuff. But how much have you aligned and agreed with, or resisted and reacted to all of that not yours stuff that you've been creating your life and your finances from? So let's do this. Everything, all that brings up, all of that energy that comes up with regards to all of this, can we destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, if you're watching this going, what? That is the access consciousness clearing statement. I use it with everything. It's the magical wand, and without me going into how it works and all the rest of it, see if it makes you lighter. See if when those energies come up, because here's the other thing is we create ourselves continuously energetically. So one of the things that we talk about in Access is your point of view creates your reality. Okay, reality doesn't create your point of view. But the thing that sticks a lot of us is a lot of these points of view, especially with regards to money that you have, are energetic. They're all of the things that you've either aligned and agreed with or resisted and reacted to that now creates part of the reality that it seems as if you cannot change it. You ever do that thing of like being like, well, this is just the way it is, or this is just the way that I function with this. Like one of the things that I found with myself many years ago also, I had this point of view that if I wasn't stressed, I wasn't creating. So if I just had peace in my world with regards to money, then how was I ever going to have money? It was the stress that was the creative energy, but that was the lie that I was using to stop myself from receiving. So how many lies have you bought as truths with regards to money that keep you from receiving it with total ease? Everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right. And basically with this also, it's just like, will you let it go? Will you just give up? Will you just give that up now? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, and beyonds. Okay. Thank you all for joining. Oh my goodness. Destroying all the crap with money. Yeah. I know, right? But so again, there are so many things with this. And, so I said that thing about, I'd been stressing out for days about, trying to figure out how I was going to handle this thing financially. And it was interesting. I woke up this morning and I was just like, okay, universe, consciousness, please show me the way with this. And I just let it go. And as soon as I let it go, everything started showing up different. So how much control also do you use with regards to money that stops you from receiving it? Okay, so I'm going to ask again, this getting a sense of, I've told this story many times. As when I was a kid, I started up some businesses. I was 14 and I started a furniture business, which was me restoring old furniture. I just get these crappy bits of furniture and I'd bring them back to life and make them beautiful. I was doing that. I was washing cars. I was mowing people's lawns, and so I had these three things going on. And basically the way that I got customers was I just run around the neighborhood and I was so excited. I was like, oh my goodness, I got the best thing in the world and I want to offer it to you. You want to take it? And everyone was like, holy shit, who is this kid? He's so excited about this. It must be amazing. But that was my reality, not only with money, but also with creation. And I looked at that and I was like, wow, what changed? And I realized what changed for me was I started looking at other people and how they created business. I started comparing myself to what I thought business was and what business should be in the world and all of these different things. But how much do you do that with money also? Look to how others create it. Look to how others are with it. And then find yourself in this constant state of competition or constant state of judgment and comparing yourself, rather than looking at, if you could have your financial reality be anything, what would that be? Now, here's a great process that I like to use with this. First of all, everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive all of that, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Another question that I love to ask: what awareness can I have here that would give me total clarity and ease with this? And so here's again, so many things. If you are desiring to change something that hasn't been seeming to change for you, you're going to have to be willing to do something different. Because how much have you been doing that thing of trying to do the same thing over and over again, wondering why it's not working? If it's not working, there's a different choice available, a different awareness at least that will give you more possibilities. So in this, asking questions is key to this. But what we've been taught is, okay, let me ask a question and then find the answer. Like the amount of people that I talk to and work with and facilitate where it's like the question is, yeah, but what's going to come from that? Well, that's not the question. Okay, a question isn't designed to give you an answer. A question is designed to open up a door for choice and awareness. And it seems it can be so foreign for a lot of people when you've been taught this idea that in order to change anything, you first of all have to figure out the means and the method and the modality in how you're going to get there. Well, how much does that eliminate what the universe is continuously trying to give to you? Continuously going, here, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, opening doors. But if any of those doors don't match the conclusion that you've already come to with regards to this, you can't even see that door. So another great tool for this, and one that I use every day specifically with regards to money, everything that I have done to uninvite money out of my life today, I now destroy and uncreate it all. Okay. And do that every day, because you come to a lot of different points of view that you don't even know that you have. That's the thing that's uninviting money out of your life. Everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Yeah. Being magical, growing up with a father that implied that I'm too much and I need to be ordinary like my sisters. Otherwise, I can't belong. I'm just reading comments, by the way, just to, let all of this in a different way. But also, one of the things I find interesting in working with people is, you guys, you'll have something going on and you'll be like, how many of you have something going on continuously? And you're like feeling like you're the only person in the whole world with that thing going on. I guarantee you, most other people have some thread of it going on, because we're all connected, and how much of the stress, how much of the worry about the future, how much of the you're not being enough, you're not creating enough, you're not doing enough, how much of the seeming like things cannot change, how much of all of that stuff is your awareness of what's going on in the world? I know, right? How different would you have to be willing to be in order to acknowledge that? Yeah. I know. It would be almost like all of life coming to you with ease and joy and glory. Amazing. And so, okay. So there's a couple of different things with these, and I'm reading the comments that you guys are putting in with different things that come up with regards to this. Like when I first started Access, I heard Gary Douglas, the founder, say that your life is a sum total of every choice that you've ever made. And it blew my world apart. That one sentence blew my world apart, because what I had decided had created my life was everything around me. I had no idea that I had the power to actually choose and create something different. And so everything for me had been about being a victim. Again, it was different things that I'd grown up with in different, energetic structures, and just all of that stuff. But I had seen that as the reason and justification for why I couldn't change things or why I couldn't create. I bring that up because looking at these things can be very helpful, like noticing where you bought a point of view, okay, where you went, oh shit, that was never my point of view. I bought that from somebody else. Great awareness to have. But the next step to that is actually making a choice to change it. Because I think for a lot of us as well, we use the stories that we have to create the reasons and justifications for what we've decided we cannot change. What if that's not true? What if there's nothing that you cannot change, including your finances? So another process here that is, let me do this a couple of different ways, I think. But first of all, everything that you have decided is unchangeable about all of this, that is actually changeable. Will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. Okay, so next thing is so many things. One of the, well, let me say this, is one of the things I've learned over the years is it's never about the money, and you're like, yes, it is. It is. It's about the money, because it's all I'm thinking about all the time. And it's everything that I've decided I can't create with. And even when I have money, I don't have enough. And even when I don't have money, I need more, and everything, it's all is. But again, it's like, what if it's not actually about the money? Now, let me go down this path and see if this opens up some space for you, some lightness that you can begin to actually, see the possibilities. Because have you ever noticed when you're like, stressed and worried, and it's that you create more of that? What if, again, you were willing to recognize that well, first of all, that there is a different possibility. So one of the things, I did a class that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and Dr. Dane here, the co-founder, did the beginning of last year, and it was called Profit, the Gift of Future. And it was just such an amazing class and a different perspective with all of this, because we look at the topic of profit is the amount of money I have left over after I've paid all of my bills. So being profitable is having a surplus of something, basically. Well, not necessarily. This was a very different conversation on profit, and one I'm so grateful for, because it talked about profit being the gift of what your choices create as a future, but also the willingness to receive from each and everything that shows up in your life and profit the gift of it. So I was listening to this class again recently, and I was just like, wow, and asking for a whole lot more of that. Because here's the beginning of this is you hear anything as a different possibility. From this point forward, all you have to do is go, yes, I am having that. What can I choose? What can I do? And what can I be that will allow that to show up for me with total ease? And start asking for that from the awareness of, if you can perceive something, okay, so if you can, let's say, see somebody having ease in an area of their life, and you can perceive that energy, meaning you see that and you're like, oh wow, that makes me lighter, wow, that would be really cool to have that as a possibility. A lot of people go to, well, then how am I going to get there? Then in order for me to have that, I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to have to do this, this, and this, rather than what's it going to take for me to have that. Also recognizing that if you can perceive an energy, you can receive it. There's somewhere that you are that also, or you wouldn't even be able to perceive that energy. So what if, rather than have to figure anything out anymore, you started creating your life from yes. You started creating your life from, what's it going to take for that to show up for me? What can I choose? What can I be? What can I do? And then also, when those kind of stuck energies come up for you, rather than have to avoid them anymore, because how many of you have been avoiding looking at those things that in the avoidance of it doesn't allow it to change? What if from now also you went, okay, so whatever this is, I'm going to be present with that also. But then everything that keeps this in existence, everything that doesn't allow this to change, I'm going to give that up to POC and POD, right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all 100, shorts, boys, POVADs, creations, bases, and beyonds. And so, I told that story about myself when I was 14, creating businesses and stuff, totally willing to profit, totally willing to receive the gift that people were receiving from me, with the enthusiasm that I was being, with the total joy from. This wasn't about what I could get. It was about, what can I contribute and what can I receive? How much does that more kind of sound like you? But so then I was recently somewhere, and I there was this little kid running around, and he was just like a toddler. He would have been like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 years old. And he was just so full of joy, and he was captivating. His energy was just like, he was just so present. And I looked at that and I watched how he was willing to profit from everything. Everything around him was included in his world, and nothing was excluded from it. So he was willing to profit from all of it. Again, how much is that more like you? What if creating your life was more about what you could engage with, rather than what you've decided is missing? What if there's nothing missing in you anymore? I know, it's just weird. It's like, but it makes you lighter, because you're like, oh my goodness, just that sounds way more like me, And if I could be like that with money, but I can't seem to be like that with money, because money's so significant. Money's like this big thing that's, what if it's not? What if it's not that for you? And what if you've just bought it as that, which is the thing that doesn't allow you to create it as if by magic? So everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all 100, shorts, boys, POVADs, creations, bases, and beyonds. Oh, somebody's asking me about the app I use. I'm on StreamYard. There you go. I'm on StreamYard, which allows me to be on multiple platforms at once. How does it get any better than that? Okay, so I'm not going to keep you guys for too much longer. I just would like to, I really wanted to offer that video course. I hope that contributes. Feel free to share that with anyone as well. I'm so blessed and grateful that I have the tools that I have. And see, because how many of you have been trying to hide everything from you and from the world that you've decided you cannot get right? How many of you have been trying to hide all of those things that you have decided are imperfections about you, or that you have as judgments of you, thinking that if you were to expose them to you, you would just be in more judgment of yourself? What if that is what keeps you in judgment of yourself? Like, so I started this off with getting clarity with this, but I'm offering it as a bigger conversation and a bigger awareness with this thing of you can't change anything that you keep hidden. Okay, you can't change anything that you're avoiding. So some other questions that are really helpful with this is, when you notice that come up, just what am I avoiding here? And asking that, you may not get necessarily a clear idea of what that is because you've been avoiding it, but then also destroying and uncreating that energy when it comes up. Next question, who or what am I defending? Because you'll notice when you have something that you're avoiding, you defend it either for or against simultaneously, which is the thing that keeps you trapped in it. When you avoid easy for me to say, when you avoid and defend a point of view simultaneously, you're stuck in it. Okay, so getting these things is very helpful when you realize that, oh my God, I've been avoiding looking at this thing and I'm defending this other person's reality by keeping it in place, but it's not even mine to begin with. Destroying and uncreating that allows you to actually begin to have choice. Okay. There was something else that I was going to mention with that I now don't forget, that I now don't remember, and I now can't talk. The other thing that I was so the other thing I was looking at recently is, it started with talking with some different people who were talking to me about, well, money is security, and bringing that topic up. Realizing that if you have money as security, if you have, okay, well, I need money in order to be secure, somewhere you have the point of view that you're not secure without it. Meaning that money now becomes the source for security rather than you as the being that you are, have you regardless. And so in looking at that, how many of you have a certain amount of money that you're not willing to lose? Or it seems like you get to a kind of a cap with it. You'll hit a certain point and then you're like, okay, I've got this much money and I don't want to lose this. So it keeps you kind of stuck in that. But also anything that you're unwilling to lose, you can't go beyond. Okay. So if you have a certain amount of money that it's like, okay, well, I certainly wouldn't be willing to lose $10,000. Well, you can't create more than that because you're not willing to lose more than that. Okay, but this is also, if you look at this in different areas of life, with relationship, with business, with your finances, with all of these different things, is what have you decided you're unwilling to lose that keeps you creating beyond it? Everything that brings up, well, you destroy and uncreate all that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and poc, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, creations, bases, and beyonds. So check out the video course. I also wanted to invite you guys to this weekend. I will be doing a class over 2 days called Business, Money, and Profit. This thing has like a I think it's like a 60 or 70 page manual as well that is just full of these awesome tools. But I have been just so enjoying playing with this energy of what profit truly is, the willingness to profit from everything that shows up in your life, the willingness to receive from everything that shows up in your life, and also the willingness to be the gift that you are. How much have you been diminishing you based on money? What if you didn't have to choose that anymore? So, my beautiful friends, thank you for being here with me today. I hope this contributed. And check out the video course. Share it around if you want to. If you want to give it to your friends, go for it. How does it get any better than that? And I will hopefully see you somewhere in the world sometime soon. Bye, guys.